It's a bit of a complicated one today because it involves religion and quite a bit of stuff which currently I haven't taken as much time to consider as I should have done. But I think it'll be useful anyway. So anyway, this brief talk is about the subject of multiculturalism, that it must not destroy society, because without it, all cultures die. I write as one who's lost faith in the church 55 years ago. In my teens, the custom of thousands singing "Abide with Me" at the start of the FA Cup was abandoned. Culture began to fracture, and a lack of respect for this custom overcame those who sang. Disillusion was fashionable in a country where once cultural homogeneity provided focus and determination necessary for good levels of cooperation. A recording of mass singing in 1927 gives some indication of the extent of change. Doubtless much improved, I am not harking back to a fantasy of the good old days. The point of this lament, if it is a lament, is to highlight the importance of culture in relation to society, without which justice, cooperation and trust can only exist theoretically. And the same goes for human rights. Without society, talk of them is futile noise. Then again, talk itself might be impossible. Without trust, compromise, cooperation, even empathy, all evaporate. It is shocking how most modern politicians and academics appear to hold society in contempt, as if it were responsible for all kinds of evil that beset humanity. They attack it. Their artificial ignorance causes them to destroy something essential for their existence. Indeed, these benighted fools, not naturally foolish but made foolish by ideology, think society can be safely eliminated, removing the urge and presence of evil, leading gormless populations astray. Enlightened politicians and academics hurl society into flames of their contempt, and from its ashes they guide the gormless to utopian heaven on earth, however hellish, for their own good. Multiculturalism inevitably leads to multi-societism. Excuse the ghastly word. A blinded Gloucester had a point. As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport. In its work to engineer or force human conformity, made to be good for their planned utopia, we are reduced to gormless fools, as if to mirror their own mental condition. The test of any political theory, including democracy, is to investigate what it assumes about human nature. All political theories fail if they require one human nature, because it would subject millions of humans, well, all of us, to inhumanity, in that there are as many human natures as there are human beings. That we share many characteristics should never be permitted to obscure the fact that no one is identical to any other. There's a commonality in individuality, and it's possible to square the individual with the collective. Pitting them against each other is born from disrespect for humanity. Most close-system political theorists and ideologists have a dim view of agency, assuming only a few people, suitably intelligent and educated, can possibly think for themselves, and are fortunate enough to see the light. These wonderful, all-knowing, selfless paragons have a duty to virtuize the gormless masses. The depth and extent of their arrogance is as wonderful as it is degrading. I'm going to recite a part of a hymn here, the first and last verse, because it goes on for several verses, and you'll be able to read the whole thing in the text, but this is something I remember from my youth quite clearly, which I would imagine most people nowadays would remember because they're too young, or alternatively because they can't remember the words anyway, because it's really religion and we're not allowed to talk about that. Abide with me, fast falls the evening tide, the darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight and tears no bitterness. Where's death's sting, where grave thy victory? I triumph still, if thou abide with me. In the text is a picture of the Cup Final tie programme for 1920, I believe 1927. And if you click on that, you will hear that being sung by effectively a mass congregation of football supporters, or rivals football supporters from that time. The mass singing is strange, although haunting, as if it were a ghost of what once was, warning that we should respect what we now have. Society must not be destroyed by multiculturalism. The ghastly irony is that culture dies without society. It seems blank slate inhumanists are unaware that by denying society to promote mass immigration, the new arrivals are being set up for the same treatment currently reserved for legacy, culture and society in the UK. It's only a matter of time before that Coca-Cola "I'd like to teach the world to sing" delusion backfires on them, potentially with great ferocity. Meanwhile, those trying to defend legacy culture, so often treated with titanic contempt, may suffer the consequences of the actions of those ideologues, and perhaps also for failing to prevent catastrophic consequences of a nation without a society. In such circumstances, the only viable political system will be authoritarianism. A cynic might conclude that this is the intention of today's ideologues. Where's death's sting? Where grave thy victory? In its contempt for humanity, demonstrated by social destruction, ideology seems to be a form of death cult. Abide with me. Well, there it goes. I think the point of this is that the people keen on multiculturalism are unaware in their efforts to somehow force it onto people that by destroying society, they're actually destroying the foundations necessary for any culture to exist. So, at the time being, out of political convenience to support their own, I believe, deluded belief, they are majoring on destroying or suppressing legacy culture or cultures, I suppose, of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, to make way for many other cultures arriving from foreign parts. But in the end, these new arrivals with their cultures are going to get exactly the same treatment, which was so conveniently dished out to those of legacy culture, trying to shout as loud as possible, warning that if you destroy society, you really destroy the bedrock of civilization. That's a pretty bad scene, quite frankly. It's likely that I'll be pushing up the daisies before the real consequences of this close to mad attitude will hit home. I do hope it doesn't happen, and I do believe that legacy culture is strong enough, and society, to turn things round. But if people do nothing, then in the end, I know it sounds bad, we, or they, maybe we, because I haven't got that much guts in me, will be equally responsible for the catastrophe currently being engineered by the multiculturalists. These are interesting times. Thanks for listening.